You can wait until after that, right? One hut had been designated as the meeting room for the chiefs. Inside, the leaders of each tribe gathered, plus Zayusu, for a total of 6 people. Zayusu was well known among the other tribes. He was the male who killed the chief of the Sharp-Edged tribe, the previous owner of Frost Pain. He was also the hero who convinced them to form the alliance. None of the chiefs had any objection to having him in the meeting. The hut wasn't very big, but the 6 of them managed to sit in a circle. When Crush had first shown her white skin, 3 of the chiefs were surprised, but now they were composure incarnate. After formalities, the Small Fang chief spoke first. He had a small body for a lizardman, but his limbs were strong and smooth like steel. He had been a hunter, and he probably had the best projectile weapon skills of any lizardman on the lake. In fact, he had ended his fight to become chief by lobbing a single rock. There were a little under 5,000 enemies. He had mobilized all the hunting parties to search for the enemy army. That army was considerably larger than all the lizardman forces combined, but it wasn't outside their expectations. There were even some sighs of relief that their adversaries were so few, and their leader, we couldn't quite figure it out. There was a monster like a big red lump of meat. But as you might expect, it was hard to get close enough to see much. What's their order of battle like? It's an undead mob, skeletons and zombies. Were they using lizardman corpses? No, I don't know much about land creatures, so I can say for sure, but I think they might be human bodies. They didn't have any tails, explained the Small Fang chief. Hearing that, Zayusu was certain they were the plains-dwelling human race. Can we make the first move and attack them? It would be tough. They relocated in a corner of the forest. They've cleared an open area there. I wonder how long that took. I am also curious where all the lumber went, since we didn't see it anywhere. Sorry, I guess I am off topic. Anyhow, they ray in the woods. We may have been able to get in there, but I imagine it'd be difficult with the warriors along. So what about a hunter-only assault? There's no way, Crush. How do you expect us to take out 5,000 undead with 25 hunters? They'd catch us and crush us, and it'd be over, replied the Small Fang chief. And then how about mobilizing the priests? Some nodded at Shasuryu's suggestion, and their eyes gathered on Crush, but Zayusu replied promptly, let us skip this plan. Why? They've been keeping their promise so far, but I am not sure they'll continue to once we go on the offensive. You may be right. At the very least, we should wait until everyone is here to attack. So are we looking at a siege then? Hard to defend. The broken speech came from one of the Lizardmen, the Razor-Tail chief. He was clad head to toe in white armor. The armor had a dull luster. It was enchanted, though only slightly, and one of the Lizardmen's 4 great treasures, white dragon bone. It was carved from the bones of frost dragons. These creatures had a natural ability to chill things. Rumor had it they inhabited the Azalizia Mountains. Something carved from plain bones, even the bones of an immensely powerful dragon, wouldn't be imbued with magic. But at some point, this armor had become magical. The problem was that its power likely came from a curse. White dragon bone made the wearer only as strong as the amount of intelligence they forfeited. On the body of someone wise, it could be harder than steel, mithril, or even the legendary adamantite. The catch was that any cleverness stolen by the armor would not return when the wearer took it off, thus its reputation of being cursed. When the Razor-Tail chief, famous for his wisdom, equipped the armor, he was able to repel all the weapons the Lizardmen had. Its fellow great treasure Frost Pain was no exception. The armor had probably reached adamantite-level hardness. Most who attempted to use white dragon bone had lost nearly all their intelligence. They ended up as idiots, but the Razor-Tail chief alone maintained a much lesser but still working mind. This showed how intelligent he'd been from the start. That was why ever since he became chief, his tribe hadn't held a fight to decide a new one. Here marsh, bad footing, walls break easy. I see, so we should be more aggressive, asked Crush. Sounds good to me. Attacking feels better than defending anyhow. If everybody takes 3 or 4, we just gotta beat 'em, right? It'll be a cinch. The other participants just looked at one another. Eventually, Crush, overlooking Zenbel's remarks, began to speak. The problem will be if they have backup. It's also possible they're still assembling their force. I wonder. It doesn't seem like they can fit any more undead in the clearing they have, at that size. But they could just put them here and there throughout the forest. Undead didn't need food, drink, or or rest, so they didn't require a large open campsite. For that reason, it was difficult to accurately estimate their numbers from the size of their location. We should keep the possibility of a siege battle in mind, just in case. Then we of the Red Eye tribe will reinforce the walls so they'll be able to withstand such a battle. Thanks in advance for your cooperation. All the other chiefs nodded in approval, even forlorn-looking Zenbal. For the time being, let us prepare for a siege. Also, we need to define a system of command. For starters, let us have Crush lead the priests. We should have her command them during the war too. As everyone agreed with the Small Fang Chief's proposal, one voice objected. The chiefs should be a separate group. It had been Zayusu who spoke, and all eyes gathered on him. Aha, I see what you mean, Zayusu, said Shasryu. Plan to make elite squad? That's right. There are a lot of enemies. If we don't take out their commander, we may lose. And if monsters like those messengers to each village come out, we won't be able to beat them. With numbers, we need a small select group. But we need commanding officers. Can pick from head warriors. We fine without commanders. All we have to do is hit the enemies in front of us. What if we had a separate group to give orders from the rear? They would only engage if we find their HQ or the battle takes a turn for the worse. Sounds like a plan to me. Okay, so how about this group of 6, including Zayusu, said Zenbal. No, let us break it down further into 3 and 3, said Crush. Splitting up meant they would be able to fight on 2 fronts, but it would make them weaker. One group to go for the enemy commander and another to hang back on defense. Then it would be smart to split up into us 3 chiefs, and then Zayusu and the 2 chiefs he brought over. We can decide on the squad roles as we go, offered the Small Fang Chief. I am fine with that. Zayusu, said Shasryu. Yeah, that'll work. No objections, Crush, Zenbal. I am fine with it. Me too, although it's too bad I can just punch at random. You beat me, so I'll follow your lead. So we only have 4 days left until they attack, right? Yup. Then what do we need to do? Get some stones for ammunition, reinforce the walls, and set up communication among tribes. We need a system to make sure everything is getting done. The Small Fang tribe is for leaving the assigning of all these tasks up to Shasryu like last time. Us fine too. You 2 opinions? Crush and Zenbal nodded their agreement. Then I'll go ahead and take command. Let us figure out a detailed plan for the next 3 days. Having finished his work for the day, Zayusu walked silently through the busy village. Several lizardmen saw the brand on his chest and frost pain at his hip and greeted him respectfully. It was kind of a bother, but he had to reply to keep morale up. He put on a confident expression and responded as was expected of a hero. Projecting that attitude, he headed to a part of the village's outer wall. A hurried construction project was underway. Several lizardmen worked on it single-mindedly. First, they made a frame by filling the spaces between wooden posts with plants. Next, they coated it with pasty mud. The priests cast a spell. All the moisture evaporated at once to create a cracked wall. They repeated the same process on the back side. Oh, Zayusu, what's up? Nothing. I just wondered what you were doing. Zayusu sloshed across the marsh to stand next to the overseer, plant monster Crush. He pointed at the work going on in front of them. What in the world is that? A mud wall. We have no idea what kind of monsters might show up, so we thought it would be good to build a wall. This would stop them from getting into the village so easily. But we don't have much time, and we're not even halfway done. I see, but isn't mud really easy to break through? No worries. A thin coat of mud is easy to break, but not a thick wall. It's a rush job, and we weren't able to collect enough materials. Rain will weaken it a bit, but this wall won't be destroyed so easily. Come to think of it, anything thick is hard to break. Zayusu was convinced. Despite the dozen or so lizardmen frantically building, the pace was dismally slow. It was tortoise slow. Even if they did their best for 3 more days, the wall wouldn't get much longer. Still, something was better than nothing. Right now, we were changing the parts we won't be able to cover to a sturdy fence. She pointed. The workers had stood the posts up on triangular bases. Multiple ropes of woven plant material were strung loosely between them. Zayusu remembered that this was the way the Red Eye tribe built their fences. What is that? You weigh down the bases to make the posts impossible to pull or push over. Then the ropes are positioned so no one can slip between the posts. If you stretch them taut, they're easier to cut with a sword, so you leave them loose on purpose. Crush replied to his question a little eagerly. All during their trip, she had been learning things from him, so she was happy to be the teacher for once. And there was another emotion she felt. I see, yeah, that'll take a lot to knock down. Crush breathed deeply with pride when she heard Zayusu's admiration. Zayusu nodded emphatically. The rushed fortifications were developing well. They weren't much compared to what humans or dwarves could build, but considering they were on uneven marshland, there was probably nothing better. By the way, Zayusu, did you tell the warriors just then? They heard the voices of warriors shouting on the wind. They were excited about something. What the heck is going on? That's a cheer I've heard somewhere before. Oh, it's like when you were fighting. Could it be your brother and Zenbal? Zayusu nodded, noting the uneasiness in Crush's eyes. It'd be trouble if your brother loses. He's supposed to be the commander-in-chief. Who knows? But he's strong, you know. Especially if he has time to use his priest powers, he'll grow stronger and stronger. My brother can definitely beat me if I am not careful. Shasaryu's fighting prowess, after casting some protective spells on himself, was no joke. Also, he probably wouldn't use his attack magic in a sparring match. But if he started casting, he'd be so strong that Zayusu wouldn't have a chance without frost pain. After all, when Zayusu had defeated the sword's former owner, it had been Shasaryu who originally forced the owner to use up the entire day's worth of frost pain's power. I guess it's okay. Then Crush couldn't seem to conceal her fear. As Zayusu considered whether he should let her see his brother fight, he remembered a worry he hadn't mentioned yet. He wondered whether he should say it or not, but then made up his mind. It wasn't fair to say something he'd withheld on purpose now that everything was decided. But he couldn't suppress the simple, yet intense feeling that he didn't want to hide anything from the woman he loved. I am worried about one thing. He couldn't keep the fear out of his voice. Crush smiled because she'd known there had been something. That smugness was so unlike her, so out of place, that Zayusu couldn't get any more words out. The one who spoke instead was Crush. The thing you didn't say back there, the scenario where the enemy expects this, the scenario where they were just waiting for us to form an alliance. Zayusu didn't say anything. She was right. The possibility lingered that the enemy had given the Lizardmen tribes time. They clearly stated the order in which villages would be attacked, and they allowed the tribes to make war preparations only because they wanted to crush all the tribes in one fell swoop. There are a lot of things to worry about, especially for someone like you who thinks so much. But I believe we should just try to fight first and then think from there. Even if we win, that doesn't mean they'll just give up. No, honestly, the chance they'll give up after one fight is so low. Maybe so, but you were right about what you said that night. And look, she raised her hand. She wasn't pointing to anything in particular, but Zayusu understood that she meant the whole village. All of us are working together toward a common goal. It was true. All the different Lizardmen were advancing toward a common objective. He remembered the feast held the previous night to celebrate the 5-tribe alliance. There hadn't been any distinction among the tribes. Of course, it would be a lie to say the survivors of the scattered clans had no hard feelings, but they had the will to swallow them for this alliance. It is so ironic, Zayusu thought without moving his lips. He thought their isolation would continue on and on. But now everyone had united for the first time against a common enemy. What we have to protect is possibilities, Zayusu. This alliance among all the tribes should allow us to grow. The mud walls were technology Zayusu had never seen before, but another tribe knew it well. Soon, this type of wall would spread through all the tribes. With protection that sturdy, monsters wouldn't be able to get into the villages anymore. That would lower the chances of weaker Lizardmen and children being attacked, and the population would increase. Zayusu's fish preserves could provide food for the growing numbers. There could even be a day in the not-so-distant future when they made one big Lizardman tribe on the marsh. Hey, let us win this, Zayusu. There's no way to know what will happen next. It could be that if we win this one fight, it'll all be over. Then we can grow. Maybe the world will be a nice place where we don't kill one another over food. Crush smiled. Zayusu held back the emotions that welled up inside him. He couldn't risk letting them go and doing something ridiculous. But just this one thing, you really are a great female. When this fight is over, you need to let me know the answer to what I asked when we first met. Crush's smile grew even brighter. Okay, Zayusu, when it's over, I'll tell you. Demiurge hummed a cheerful tune as he worked. He held up a polished bone, considering where to best put it. Finding the perfect spot, he filed the tip and fit the piece into one end of what he was building. The bone locked into place, as if it had been made to go there. In the same way that traditional wood joinery techniques allow furniture to be made without metal fastenings, what Demiurge was doing could be called traditional bone joinery. Very good. Beaming, he pet the bone. He had the feeling if things continued this way, his project would turn out wonderfully. If I could use a femur from a 3'11" man, he could finish the project. Without one, it just wouldn't be quite as aesthetically pleasing. Normally, he might have overlooked such shortcomings, but this was a present for his master, whom he loved and revered devoutly. He had to give his all. If only someone like that happened to be nearby, he cheerfully set to work again. Actually, Demiurge enjoyed making things like this. Not bone work specifically, but carpentry-like activities. His hobby covered a wide range of projects, from small crafts to furniture, and his skill had surpassed that of any typical hobbyist. In fact, the quality of the piece he was working on now would blow anyone away if they were able to ignore the building material. Really, a person would react with awe upon seeing any of the things in Demiurge's tent. The bronze statue of his master, made so they could pour lava into it, various types of chairs, a vice. These were all things Demiurge had created. They were made for practical use, and therefore unadorned, but they had all turned out splendidly. As he picked up another piece of material from the corner of the tent to carefully consider, he sensed movement at the entrance. He quietly replaced the bone, gripping the irreplaceable item he received from his master, and focused on the newcomer. Under usual circumstances, he would have assumed it was one of his minions or a colleague. It was impossible for anyone to penetrate his triple defense system without his noticing, but he couldn't afford to leave any openings when they were up against the enemy who had mind-controlled Shaltia. The one to open the flap and enter the tent a few seconds later was wearing a white outfit and a mask. The mask had a long nose like a pitch-black bird beak. It belonged to Pulcinella. He was a clown created by the supreme beings and assigned to assist Demiurge on his current job. After checking to make sure the servant hadn't been mind-controlled, Demiurge relaxed his focus. The hand gripping his items slackened. Master Demiurge, I've finished skinning them. At those words, he felt just a tiny bit of disappointment. Normally that would be the kind of work he'd relish himself, but they were on guard against an unknown enemy, so he couldn't really leave his post. Thus such enjoyable work had fallen to Pulcinella. Without letting those feelings show now, he gave a new order. Good work, on to the next step. It would be rude to hand them over to Lord Aints in their current state. The clown gave an elegant bow. Demiurge asked, and how many died? Thanks to the tortures, none. They just lost consciousness. It seems like we'll be able to skin them again almost immediately. Some are refusing healing magic, but the number is around what we expected. It's not a problem, that's wonderful. It was taking quite a lot of effort to find materials. If they couldn't flay each one more than once, the work would never be worth it. That didn't mean they had any intention of taking away the pain or putting them to sleep, though. I want to make everyone happy. At this sudden declaration, Demiurge recalled Pulcinella's personality. Pulcinella was known throughout Nazarick as particularly gentle and compassionate. He was created to bring happiness to everyone, and his behavior always reflected that. The beings in the Great Tomb of Nazarick are all happy because we are able to serve Lord Aints. Demiurge nodded, agreeing wholeheartedly. Indeed. Then let me ask you this, Pulcinella. Are outsiders also happy to serve Nazarick? No, they are most definitely not. Certainly, getting to serve Lord Aints is cause for gladness. One might choke on tears of joy, but if one is forced to serve, that is not happiness. Oh ho, then what should we do about that? That is simple. We choose one and cut off his arm, then the others compare themselves to him and understand that they are happy. What a wonderful thing. Then to make the one with the missing arm happy, we just cut off someone else's leg. Oh, I'm making so many people happy. Demiurge gave a satisfied nod as Pulcinella leaned his head back and cackled. Indeed, you are quite correct. Time spent idly waiting normally drags on and on, but before a deadline for preparations, it always goes by surprisingly fast. And so, the appointed time had arrived. That day the sun climbed agonizingly slowly into a clear blue sky. The wind carried not a single sound. The world was wrapped in a silence so deep it was painful. The air was so tense a pinprick would pop it. Someone swallowed hard. Someone else was breathing raggedly. How much time had passed since the gathered lizardmen had stopped talking? Suddenly, a single black cloud appeared. It looked like a hole in the heavens. Just like last time, it spread out to cover the blue sky. Once it had encompassed the whole expanse, blocking the light of the sun and casting the area into gloom, the lizardmen looked on as countless undead slowly appeared at the boundary between the woods and the marsh. They couldn't tell how many because of the trees. But the way they came one after the other made them seem endless. The attackers consisted of 200 zombies, 200 skeletons, 300 undead beasts, 150 skeleton archers, and 100 skeleton riders, 950 in total, plus the commander and his guards. Defending against them was the 5-tribe Lizardman alliance. From the Green Claw tribe, 103 warriors, 5 priests, 7 hunters, 124 males and 105 females. From the Small Fang tribe, 65 warriors, 1 priest, 16 hunters, 111 males and 94 females. From the Razortail tribe, 89 heavy warriors, 3 priests, 6 hunters, 99 males and 81 females. From the Dragon Tusk tribe, 125 warriors, 2 priests, 10 hunters, 98 males and 32 females. From the Red Eye tribe, 47 warriors, 15 priests, 6 hunters, 59 males and 77 females. In other words, there were 429 warriors, 26 priests, 45 hunters, 491 males and 389 females, 380 in total, plus the chiefs and Zayus. A war where one side outnumbered the other 3-1 was about to begin. It was a one-room wooden building. There was no ornamentation.